Okay, so version 1.0, plants and observation data. So I'll be talking about some of the applications available for different users, and that was one of the intentions of the system, was to provide functionality that was appropriate for different users. So on the public map page, the data is all what we call fuzzied. People can view it either from a county distribution, like a political point of view, or from a HUC point of view, kind of an ecological distribution. And it will actually be limited to species we consider common in the state. And you'll notice in 1.0, there's only like 5 species to start with. We'll be building from there. Then another piece that we felt was really important to have was some way to receive information from the general public, because the public has been the source of many really important reports. But on the other hand, you know, I get 3 or 4 calls a summer about kudzu in the Adirondacks, and thankfully they've all been fake, or I shouldn't say fake. They weren't good intention, but they were not kudzu, so that was a good thing. So we feel a nice balance is the general public will have a form. They can submit a report, and it'll go to Heritage staff. And then Heritage, depending on what the report is, if it includes a picture and it's for purple loosestrife, you know, go ahead and we'll add it in the database. If it's something that is needs a little more verification, send it on to a trained user. And if we find out that it's actually an incorrect ID, you know, keep those as a false report, so we kind of remember if we get 3 or 4 reports from that area that that might be the same case there. I'm assuming most people from this phone call will be doing some kind of training and get a user login. Some people may have already taken our preview training that Brent did with the Cornell in-service in November. And then you can log in and have a password, and inside you can view point data and click and get information on the records and things like that. The very first user level inside is actually view only. So we think this will be real handy. My sample is a county administrator. You want to be able to show them the project area where you want to be working, but they really have no need to be adding data. The next, my example, is one of the groups that we're going to be working with, Cornell Cooperative Extension, is training 4-H youth to put in basic observation data. So who, what, when, and where. And there are 2 very nice ways to enter the where data. One, if you don't have GPS coordinates, you can pan and zoom on this Google map and then you know, submit that as the point location. Or if you have a GPS, you can put the XY coordinates in and it will zoom to there. And from a GIS perspective, we're hoping that will help improve the accuracy of the GPS coordinates entered. You know, historically, a lot of times if you leave off 1 digit or transpose 2 digits, you know, you end up in Pennsylvania instead of New York, or in southern New York instead of northern New York. So I think once people put in their coordinates and it zooms to the area, if it's significantly off, hopefully they'll recognize that, and that should help the accuracy of those GPS coordinates. I should mention with the online data entry, I'll get into it later, but there are 2 ways to get data into iMap. One is from a bulk upload and one is from the online data entry. So if you have a big data set, you don't have to be entering it 1 record at a time. Another example are the lake volunteers, and they'll be able to zoom in and print out a map, although printing that map is not available in 1.0. It'll be like 1.1. You could do a screenshot for now and then print your screenshot. Also, the email alerts will be available by HUC. So, you know, whatever HUC they're working on, they could choose that HUC to get those email alerts. And I'll cover this again more later, but the email alerts are also not going to be activated for a while, and I'll get into the details of why that is later. Another feature that we thought would be really handy is to be able to summarize data by a project. So I have some examples here. The first one is actually a real example that we'll be working with. There's a professor at Union College who teaches a fall ecology class, Ecology 101 class, and he's willing to have his students help survey and submit common invasive species each fall. So then he'll be able to summarize, after 5 years, how many records his students input and do some maps based on that. The other two are sample things there. A NIFWIF grant to Long Island and a U.S. Forest Service grant to APIP. But you could put a grant in as a project, and then even if you have a lot of volunteers from different places and different organizations, you'll be able to lump that data. The preserve manager is someone that we think is going to want, and this could be a park manager, many different on-the-ground type people, but we feel that's where a lot of the functionality is going to be needed and desired. So, of course, they'll be able to put in observation data. They'll also be able in the future to do assessment data, which is more detailed information. It's not just who, what, when, where, it's how many and other things like that. They'll, of course, be able to use the project data. And in the future, the Phase 3 stuff is at least 12 months out. But two things that we're very excited about and working on for Phase 3 are the survey data and the treatment data. The survey data will help answer some of the negative absence data that people want to capture. So we'll be designing it such that you can show the area surveyed and the species you surveyed for, and then we're not guaranteeing that those species aren't there, but at least you can get an idea if we've surveyed 6 areas of the state for Asian longhorn beetle and nobody's surveyed this particular area, it gives an idea of where you might want to get out to. And the treatment data will allow a treatment record to be associated with more than one species. So if you're doing a burn or if you're having goats eat, you can associate it with all the species that might be affected by that treatment. And then again, I'm expecting that they'll also be big users of the email alert system when it's available. And just to back up, two of the ideas that Owen and Timmons down in, I think, New Zealand worked on and Long Island has used, and several of the premises of the functionality we're designing into iMap Invasives has this by species and by location idea. So, mile a minute exists downstate, and there are some points actually that need to be added for Ithaca, at least one. But if it shows up, in the mall parking lot at Colony Center, we still want to treat it. It's new for the area. We want to keep it out. And kind of the flip of that are all this ISPZ discussion, that you can identify a habitat that is relatively or mostly or almost all invasive species free, and you build a fence, and there even if something common comes in, like garlic mustard or purple loosestrife, you want to try to keep it out. One of the features is also going to be able to do reports, and one of those will be early detection reports by Prism and by county, so that these are species that are reported from 1, 2, or 3 locations, and therefore you might still be able to do something about. The kudzu on here has been treated on the slides you're looking at. I actually don't know the history of the giant hogweed, and I'm pretty sure the Brazilian waterweed has not been treated. The reports are also one of the places where, I'm stealing my punchline on my partner data slide coming up, but one of our goals is to help improve the accuracy of the reports. So we've put that right there at the top. So if you get an early detection report, this is for Erie County, and Paul Furman might be able to tell me, but I'm guessing there's more than 3 locations of Norway maple. Chicory. So this will be a good place where maybe some of the volunteers can help, put in some additional reports so that things that shouldn't be coming on an early detection report are not coming up on an early detection report. One thing I wanted to be sure to mention was that those of you who are familiar with the NAS website, the Non-Indigenous Aquatic Species, they've been up and running for 12 years. Pam Fuller is the lead, and it's run by USGS. And they have a good system in place where people report aquatics. They actually review the report, and then have a web page where things are reported by HUC. And Pam and I have had agreement that we will share data. So if you put it in iMap, it'll show up in NAS, and if you put it in NAS, it'll show up in iMap. So for those of you in New York that are familiar with submitting to NAS, you can continue to submit just as you're used to. So here's my partner data slide. It's very exciting. We've contacted maybe 7 organizations so far, and we have over 8,000 records already. I'll point out the purple, there's one purple dot on this slide for a sample. The red triangles are the partner data, and the data that's entered through iMap online will be as purple circles, and they're hollow circles as unconfirmed, and then when they get confirmed, they get to closed circles. We felt this was very important. We feel the partner data really provides a wonderful base set, but it isn't going to get the same quality control review that the online records are going to get. So we felt it was very important to delineate them differently. And then this is my outreach to the Prism and a heads up. We're going to start working on reaching out to more data sets, and I want to thank, we have several people that have come forward already and said, hey, I have some data we'd like included. And we have a list of that, and Bud from, how do you say Bud's last name? Secular? Bud Secular from the Heritage Program will be helping to gather that data and convert it into the iMap format and upload it so we can increase the partner data set. So some of you, it's a heads up, some of you that have already told us Bud will be calling, and for others, please don't hesitate to contact us, and when we work through the list that we have already, we will start sending out probably to one Prism listserv at a time an invitation for additional contacts to try to help make that base data the best picture possible for our state. Then I also just want to, kind of back to core business here. The iMap Invasive site is meant to serve all the pieces of the puzzle going on in New York. So one of the things we'll also be doing over the next year is we'll be forming a user group, kind of an informal group that we try to solicit feedback from. But over time, it's our goal to continue to improve this and serve the needs of the people utilizing it to help them do their work. So I thought it would be nice to introduce some of the staff from the Heritage Program that will be helping. The first person on the list is Shireen, and if you're not sure who to contact, call her. She's wonderful. She knows what's going on, and she'll put you in touch with the right person. Brent Keinel, many of you have met, and he's working on the conservation lands. He's available to do some custom GIS meetings or maps for meetings if you need. He's also working on the invasive species prevention zone work, so when Prisms get ready to work on that, or he may be actively outreaching to some of you too. And then you'll see there's 3 people, including Brent, listed as training, and I have that on another slide as well. Bud, as I mentioned, will be helping, okay, Brent, for those of you who haven't met, do they see my cursor like that? Okay, this is Brent, and this is Bud, and that was Shireen up there. This is Tara with her dog. She will be helping with the Beta 2 testing, which several people have agreed to help with, which is wonderful. And she will also be doing the quality control of the data submitted online. And then Heidi will be doing some training, and she's also helping a lot on the backside with the admin stuff. So the possibility, except for training, you wouldn't interact much with Heidi, but she's doing a lot of the work also. So figured one of the big questions that people would be asking is when. So we're planning to do the Beta 1 testing in February, then the Beta 2 testing where people are helping in March, and then in March and April we're going to be doing training. And I will say on this phone call and all the other things we'll be saying, we do want to keep that training to, Prism invitation. We're not ready to launch into like a newspaper article of, please come to the training kind of thing. We'll get to that road another time, or that step later on. The Heritage Office will conduct one training in each Prism, and then in addition, Heidi will be doing 3 WebEx trainings, and one of those will be on a weeknight and one of those will be on a Saturday, so that if there are some volunteers from the Prism that you want to be able to take the training and they can't come during a weekday one, maybe they could catch one of the WebEx ones. So in addition to what you'll be seeing in 1.0, shortly thereafter, there will also be the terrestrial plant assessment data and the 8 by 11 formal printed maps and more ways to query the data. Things we're working on, but they won't be out real soon, so I don't want people to be holding their breath or anything. The aquatic plant assessment data, and then we'll be working on the insect observation data. Then, as I mentioned, the email functionality we'll be monitoring to decide when it's appropriate to put it up. We don't want people to be cluttered in their inbox with an email alert for purple loosestrife. So until we're comfortable with the level of the base data, we will be holding those. And then, as I mentioned, in the future, we'll be getting into the treatment data and the survey data. And there, hey, just about 20 minutes. So.